Hi guys, Mr. C here. This video is really more for grade 5s. Anybody can watch. Excuse me. And this is more detailed about 3D shapes, and particularly perspective. Getting a 3D shape accurate requires some perspective. So let's start with a blank page. And we're going to draw a bit of a grid here, and you'll see why in a minute, just to keep everything square and straight. Take your ruler and line it up with your page at the top. Draw a line and move it down, line it up with that line, draw another line, so you get a series of lines here. I'm just going to tape my page in place here so it stops moving. While you're drawing your lines, there we go. So then line up that ruler with that line, draw another line, and so forth. So you get just a few lines light with your pencil, because you're going to erase these mostly like that. And just to keep that nice straight square line going the other way, vertically and horizontally. Let's get a bit of a grid here. Just light pencil marks. They're more of a guide. You're going to erase most of them, so there we go. Now, let's say you're drawing a cube or a rectangle, which is a cuboid actually when it's 3D. And let's just take one of these squares or part of this graph and make a square out of it. So I'm going to use my Sharpie so you can see it online. There we go. Of course, you should know that a square means each side is exactly the same. Like that. What have I got? 2 inches almost? 2 1/4, if you're doing centimeters. I've got almost 6. It's 5 or millimeters. Let's go with 58 millimeters squared. Doesn't have to be that. You can just measure it out depending on the width of your ruler. That's what your graph is going to end up being. Now, to turn this into a cuboid, a 3D shape, and to make it accurate rather than just freehand, you need what's called a vanishing point. So somewhere up here, just put a dot. And using your pencil, take these 3 points here and line them up with the dot. And then draw a line from that point to the vanishing point. From that point to the vanishing point. And from that point to the vanishing point. Isn't that cool? Looks like this is vanishing into the distance, into the horizon. And that's why it's called vanishing point. And then, now using these lines to help you keep it square, you're going to draw another line joining these two. So you're going to go across, and the idea is to keep it parallel with this line. That's why I had to put grids in there. Feel free to pause the video if you want to catch up, if it's going too fast for you. So, you want to make a square, you're going to bring it down. You want to make it a cube. If you'll make a cuboid, bring it up a bit. Try and keep it parallel with your grid, like that. And then parallel with this line and your grid line. But, of course, you're going to drop it down from here, because that's going to be a corner. So, pretty parallel there. Drop that down. Now, once again, I'll just darken that with my Sharpie so you can see it better on camera. I'm lifting my ruler so I don't smudge the line. It's probably not quite dry as I move around. So if you're doing the same thing I am, using a pencil and then your Sharpie, don't slide your ruler over the line you just did. It's probably still a bit wet. Lift your ruler up, put it on the other side, and you won't chance smudging your new line. There we are. And then you erase these lines. I'm going to keep the vanishing point there for a minute. I'm going to erase all the inside pencil lines. There we have a cuboid in perspective. Now that can be turned into a house, a building, almost anything. Let's say I want to put a door right here. So I'm going to line up parallel to this line and go up a little bit. Follow that. Try and keep it parallel. I'm using pencil initially. Go up a little bit. And then, using the vanishing point, I'm going to close the top of my door. Now my door is in perspective. It matches the rest of my cuboid, or my building. It's not a very good Sharpie. It seems to be bleeding a little bit, but you can see how it looks. So now my door is in perspective with the rest of the building. So that's essentially the rules for keeping things in perspective, for drawing very accurate 3D shapes. That could apply to a cube, cuboid, almost any 3D shape really. And if you're doing drawings where you're practicing vanishing point, like this one. This is a drawing I did, and it's just I just pulled a piece of paper out of a binder. You can still see the holes. You can see where my vanishing point is, where everything goes there. So my train tracks, my road, I used a ruler, lined up the line of my train track to that vanishing point, the line of my buildings to that vanishing point, sidewalk to the vanishing point. Everything was drawn with a ruler to the vanishing point. And then I erased the guidelines and drew in my buildings and cars and streets and sidewalks. One hint when you're drawing your horizontal lines is they get closer and closer. That's just the optical illusion. These lines are kind of far apart. These lines for the sidewalk get closer and closer. It gives you more of the optical illusion of perspective there. I'll make a link in my video so you can see this picture without being a bad photocopy. You can see the original online. Now, this is a single vanishing point. I'll do another video with 2 vanishing points. You can have multiple, but we'll stop with the single one and see how you get on with that. Just a point for sketching. I may not always use a vanishing point. I mean, this is more like if you're doing a vanishing point or perspective exercise. If you're, say, an artist, a graphic artist, you're getting paid $50 an hour, and the mayor says, I want to see what the new courthouse is going to look like. So you give him an artist's perspective of the new courthouse. But it can't just be a quick, silly sketch. He wants to see what it's going to look like compared to the surroundings and the city. So you'd get everything. You might use a drafting table, and you would get all your grid going, and you draw the new courthouse at all the right perspectives using your vanishing points. But if you're just doing a sketch, let's say I'm sketching and I just want to add another building. Hope the pencil shows up here. I think it's good. I can press a bit more. So I just want to add another building. I'm just using my eye, but I am keeping in mind of a vanishing point. Which means when I draw these lines, I'm going to try and keep them going towards a vanishing point that I just have in my mind. I may not put it on my page as I'm sketching. Nice thing about sketching is that you go back and you can change things, fix things, hide things. So I'm just roughly sketching out the shape of a cuboid here, which is going to be my building. Take off any extras. Yeah. Add corners, things like that. And let's see, I want to add some windows. It's pretty easy right in the end because it's square. But the windows here, the easy part is the vertical lines. That's fairly straightforward. But then you have to match this angle on your window, and this angle on the bottom of the window. So try and keep it accurate. And then I might go back and erase. Any overhangs of lines or correct lines. Well, that's as a sketch. That's without any grid. That's just me thinking, okay, the vanishing point's somewhere up in there. Yeah, I might correct things a little bit. Like that. I might have some stairs, like I did in the drawing I just showed you. Put some stairs in here. Yeah, you could put a door. Or a double door. With a handle. Yeah. And then in my other picture, I just thought, well, what's on the building? Well, there could be an air conditioner unit on the top. So I just throw that in there. Again, trying to keeping the perspective, keeping these lines parallel with these lines and these lines. It's a bit off, but that's a sketch. Parallel with these lines. Yeah. Maybe I'll put a grid on there. And there's my sketch using a vanishing point. Now to add just one more point here, not a vanishing point, but one more idea. If you are doing a drawing using a vanishing point, you want some light. So let's say I'm going to have my light coming from, say, this direction. Like the sun is up there somewhere, shining down on the building in this direction. So the light's coming this way, the shadow's going to be this way. I have to imagine, well, what angle is the light coming from? So I've got the angle coming like this, so I just might kind of follow that angle in my mind's eye and draw a shadow, keeping the same angle. Draw the edge of the shadow. Now it's a hard edge because it's a building, but the vanishing point still apply to one edge of the shadow. So I'm going to get rid of that. Get rid of that. And then shade it in. Shadows are crucial if you want to give your drawings depth. Now this is a hard line shadow. Kind of depends on what surface you're planning that the shadow's falling on. And of course this side of the building will also be in shadow. Whoops. There we go. So now I have a 3D building and it's looking more realistic because I got some shadow going there. Now if the light is a little bit up further away, this might have a little bit of shadow. It might be a little bit. But it's not as dark as this because there's still a bit of light coming around here. So there's a little bit of shadow maybe, and not so much as this one. This is really dark because it's like complete opposite side of where the light's coming from. There you go. Have fun drawing your pictures. And the next video I'll show you a double vanishing point.